welcome to the Jayda InStitches show, and welcome to October. It's Fair Isle Friday, and it is time for the 10th installment in our 2023 Fair Isle style calendar blanket. This month we're going to do some leaves. Leaves are a very classic Fair Isle style image, so it's rather appropriate that we're going to sneak them in for October. I love this particular graph. I think it would be really neat if you went one leaf pointed up and maybe the next leaf pointed down. If you're a little more adventurous playing with the graphs, you might want to give that a try. There's a lot of fun to be had with colors with this particular graph as well, and I've got some suggestions for you when we get to the sampler section of the video. If you like leaves, and this one has you kind of excited, we have another leaf that you might want to consider using in addition to or even in lieu of. We released a Fair Isle Style Plus maple leaf pattern back in July, mostly for Canada's birthday on July the 1st, but it's a maple leaf. It's beautiful and it really signifies fall. Certainly around here it does. And I thought it would be kind of neat to have this one and the other leaf all kind of mixed together. I'm going to need 30 lifetimes to do the number of Fair Isle blankets that I actually want to do. Anyway, that is a pattern that's available in our Etsy shop if you haven't seen it, and if you want to consider it, we'll link to our Etsy shop down below and you can pop over and check that out as well. But let's grab our blankets, we'll grab our hooks, we'll grab our yarn, we'll head on over to the craft table, and we will stitch up the 10th, holy cow, the 10th October installment of this year's calendar blanket together. For the October strip of our Fair Isle style calendar blanket, you're going to want to use the same hook and yarn you've been using all along. I've got a size 4 medium weight acrylic yarn. I've got around 121 yards earmarked for this particular strip, and I've got 6 spools all loaded, each with 9 yards of yarn. I'm using a carrot or pumpkin color for this month. You want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and the hook I've been using is a 5.5 millimeter, also known as an I or a 9. And once you've got all that together, plus your blanket, we can get started. As usual, I recommend doing some samples of today's pattern. I've got one here in a couple of different colors where I reversed the A-B, so the A is a dark color and the B is a light color. And I've also got another one here where I tried making a leaf with 2 colors. So I've got an A, which is white, and a B and a C color. This just highlights the veins in that leaf a little extra. You could also make today's pattern solid, so you don't have to include the little vein detail in the leaf if you don't want to. You can just fill in the entire area with the B color and make a solid colored leaf. This is especially a fun idea if you're using a self-striping or variegated yarn for your color B. As usual, we are going to have a graph of this month's pattern up here in the top right corner, and I will be referring to this as we go throughout the video. It's still 20 stitches by 11 rows, and it's a fully mirror image pattern. So whether you're coming at it left or right, it's always going to be the same counts. So I'm still going to tell you what side of the graph you're starting on, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, but just know that if you get mixed up and you start at the wrong side, it doesn't matter, because either way you come at a row, it's going to be identical whether you're left or right-handed. I left off last time by taking my working loop and putting a little safety pin in it. That just helps me keep the loop from undoing while I'm using my hook for other projects throughout the month. Chain 2, this begins our first row of the graph. Let's take a look. Like all the other patterns in this blanket so far, row 1 is a solid row of color A. So every single double crochet in this row is color A. In my case, it's white. Right-handed, you're starting on this side of the graph where the 1 is. Left-handed, you would be starting over here. But either way we come at it, it's 100% color A. So each graph is 20 stitches wide. The chain 2 at the beginning of every row counts as the first stitch of the row. You're going to double crochet with A in every single stitch all the way across, and that will be row 1. The last stitch of every row is located in the top of what was the chain 2 turning chain from the previous row, so don't forget that when you get there. You should have 120 stitches if you're making the same size blanket as me, or that perfect multiple of 20 if you're making fewer or more of the graph repeats than me. Chain 2 with color A and turn. blanket is getting big. Let's go to the graph. Row 2, right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over here, but either way you come at it is the same. We have got 9A, 2B, 9A, repeat. That's 9A, 2B, 9A, repeat. So we're going to get our first spool engaged here for row 2. That chain 2 counts as the first double crochet. So we're going to crochet 8 more stitches. See where I'm at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and number 9. We only half work that 9th stitch. Grab one of our previously loaded spools. I've got 9 yards here. Start with a slip knot. Not too tight. And I'm going to finish off that stitch with that first little bit of yarn. I don't want my knot to be too obvious there. I can fix that later though. Okay. Now I'm going to work 2 double crochet or a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches using my B color. I'm going to work the first half of that second B stitch because we are turning back to the A color. I'm going to leave my spool on the back. So I'm going to say I joined on the back. Actually, let me put that over here. Joined on the back. They can stay to the back. And I'm going to finish that stitch off. So there's my first 2 of B. I'm going to do the last 9 stitches of this graph repeat in A now. So 9A, 2B, 9A, repeat. I've engaged spool number 1. And before continuing on, I've just sort of wrapped up the B color and locked it in place just so it doesn't bounce around behind the blanket. And I'm going to keep all of my spools, I'm going to join them all. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to join them all from the back and make sure that they finish to the back so that all of my spools are just sitting towards the back. Now it doesn't matter if you start them on the front or the back, but they should all be sitting on the same side of the blanket for whatever row you're on. So for this row, all my spools will be to the back, and for the next row, they'll all be to the front, and then they'll switch for the next row. And we've covered that several times. It just helps keep things neat and tidy as you progress. All right, I'm going to let you continue that. 9A, 2B, 9A, 2B, all the way across, and I'll catch up with you at the end of row 2. That's row 2 complete. So you've got 9A, 2B, 9A, repeat. You end with 2B, your last 9 in A. The last stitch is in the top of the chain 2. We are going to chain 2 and turn the blankets. And back to the graph. Row 3, right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over here, but it's the same. We've got 6 in A, 8 in B, 6 in A, repeat. 6A, 8B, 6A, repeat. Doesn't matter which direction you're going. So let's go. That chain 2 counts as the first double crochet, so we're going to double crochet 5 more with A. Just before the color change, we stop. We only work the first half. All of my spools are now facing on the front. I've got to grab my B and reach it over to complete that stitch. And now I'm going to work over top of this reach while I carry my A color. And I'm going to crochet 8 in B. Okay, I'm going to give my A color a tug just to make sure that it doesn't bunch up underneath. I'm going to finish that last stitch with A, make sure that my spool is still sitting on the same side of the blanket that it started on, and then I finish that graph repeat with 6 more in the color A. So there is 6 in the color A. That completes the graph. I'm going to just grab my little spool. It bounced off the table and unraveled. This is why I like to try and keep them wound up as tight as I can. So before I finish one graph repeat and continue with the next, I always stop to make sure that I've completely wound up my spool just to keep them from hopping off the table. So that is 6A, 8B, 6A. We're on repeat now. And we're going to start really seeing the bottom part of the leaf come in. That's row 3 completed. The bottoms of our leaves are now showing quite well. We're going to chain 2 and turn our work. All right, back to the map. We are on row 4 of our graph. Right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over here. We start with 5A into 3B, and then 1A, 2B, 1A, 3B, 5A to complete the row. So this is the first row where we start with a little bit of playing back and forth with the colors. Now if you're entering a color C into this scenario, so from my previous little sampler where I've changed the middle of the vein colors of the leaves to be a third color, that's your color C, then you're going to look at all of these little interior double crochets as a C. So I'm using color A, but if you're using a third color, this will be your color C. So once again, row 4 is 5A, 3B, 1 in A or C, 2B, 1 in A or C, 3B, 5A, repeat. Okay, here we go. So that first chain 2 counts as double crochet. We're going to double crochet 4 more. And before we finish that last stitch in color A, so all of my spools are on the other side of my blanket now. I'm going to free up the spool. There's going to be a small reach across from the other side, so you're always looking for the potential of a reach to work over top of. I'm double crocheting with B. I'm making sure that I'm grabbing that little bit of reach so that it disappears. And it's 3 in B. I'm carrying A. And before I change colors, I work the first half of that stitch in B. I switch back to A. If you are using color C, you would start your C color here. It's just 1 in the other color, so before you finish that stitch, you're switching back to B. It's B for 2. One in A, or your B color, or I should say your C color if you're using a third color. Work the first half of it, switch back to B immediately, and it's B for 3. And I always like to just tug a little bit on my A to make sure there was never any bunching. Switch back to A to complete that last stitch. I'm going to roll up my spool so that it doesn't want to jump off the table again. Leaving it on the back of the blanket because that's where it started. And then it's 5 in A to finish this graph repeat for row 4. Alright, I love the sounds of the little spools bouncing around on the table. Here we go. 5A, 3B, 1 in A or C, 2B, 1 in A or C, 3B, 5A. That completes one full repeat of row 4 of the graph. And I'll let you continue. I love this. This almost looks like, you know that little leaf character from, I think it's from Mario, the Mario Brothers game? There's a little leaf carrier character that has a couple of little eyes. This bottom of it really kind of reminds me of that. I just sort of saw that now. So cute. Okay, I will see you at the end of row 4. That's the end of row 4. All of our leaves now have what look like 2 little cartoony eyeballs. Or it's the beginning of the vine, I should say the vein inside the leaf. And if you're using a color C, then you'll have the first 2 entries of your color C per leaf here. We're going to chain 2 and turn our work. And we're into row 5. Right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over here. We begin with 4 in A, 3B, 1 in A or C, 4B, 1 in A or C, 3B, 4A, repeat. So we're spreading out that little vein effect inside the leaf. So that first chain 2 counts as a double crochet. We double crochet 3 more, and when we get to the stitch before the color change, we're just going to pause and make sure all of my spools don't get tangled up with my A yarn. We have a little tiny reach because our leaf color is still getting bigger. I'm going to grab that reach and make sure I'm double crocheting over top of it. I've got 3 in B. Then we switch to A to finish off that stitch before the color change. 1 in our vein color, back to B. We're always working over top of the color that we don't need. Working 4 in B. Giving my A a little tug, finish off that stitch with A, switching for A, or possibly C if you're using it, switch back to B, remember if you're using a C color, so you're making the veins of your leaves a different color, then you're only using that extra spool within the encasement of the leaf. So don't forget after you've worked that second vein stitch to drop that C spool. But if you're using A like I am, you're carrying it throughout. That was it for B. 3 in B. I'm going to switch back to A. Finish that off. And then it's 4 stitches in A to finish that repeat of the graph. Okay. I'm going to roll up my spool, make sure that it's on the front because that's the side that it started the row on. And our leaf is starting to grow. So now we're into the 5th row. Our little vein feature is expanding to go with the expansion of the leaf. And you're going to repeat that all the way across, and I'll check in with you at the end of row 5. That's the end of row 5 complete. I'm going to chain 2. We're going to turn our work. And back to the graph. Row 6, right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over here. We begin with 4A, 2B, 1 in A or C, 6B, 1 in A or C, 2B, 4A, repeat. So our little vein pattern is still getting wider, but we're at the same number of A stitches to start. So this is the widest that the leaf gets, rows 5 and row 6. Here we go. So that chain 2 counts as double crochet. We work 3 more double crochet with A, and stitch before the color change, we pause, and we finish it With B, we've got just a smidgen of a reach here because it's coming up from the stitch directly below us. So when we start that next double crochet, I'm going to make sure that I just pull that reach over top so that I'm kind of catching it with my double crochet. Just keeps things looking neat and tidy. Working over my A color, I work 2 in B. I immediately switch back to A, work the A or the C color, switch back to B, and now we're working 6 in the B color, and this is quite a lot in B, so before you grab your A, just give it a little tug just to make sure that it hasn't bunched up. Work 1 in A, or maybe that's the C color you're using. You're dropping C if you're using it, but you continue to work over A if that's what you're using. Look a little big to you? It does look a little big to me. Let me tighten that up. Sometimes I like to just double check that my stitches are even looking. That looks better. Before I continue. Finish that with 2 in B. Switching back to A, and then it's 4 in A to complete the graph repeat. There you go. I'm just going to roll up that spool, making sure it's still on the same side that it started on. And there we go. That's the bottom, the good bottom half of our leaf complete. The bottom veins are completed in this row, which is row 6, and then we'll be making kind of another little set for rows 7 and 8. We're halfway through our graph now, so you're just going to continue that all the way across, and I'll catch up with you at the end of row 6. At the end of row 6, the very bottom part of our leaf is complete, so we're going to chain 2 now. And turn our work. Make sure none of our spools are all mixed up here. Row 7, right-handed you're over here, left-handed you're over here. Row 7 is an exact replica of row 4. We begin with 5A, 3B, 1 in A or C, 2B, 1 in A or C, 3B, 5A, repeat. Like I said, row 7 is an exact repeat of row 4. We've got one minor little reach at the very beginning because we are now closing in the shape of our leaf. So when you go to work that 5th stitch, make sure you pick up your B, you're carrying your B color for just the equivalent of a single stitch before you make that change. And then it's 3B. Switch to your A or C color for 1. Back to B for 2. Switch to your A or C color for 1. And then B for 3. Switch back to A, and then it's 5A to finish the graph repeat. And I'm going to just take a second to roll up my little spool. Row 7, the same as row 4. I'll see you at the end. Row 7 was the same as row 4, so we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and take a look at row 8. right-handed, you're over here. Left-handed, you're over here. We are going to work 6A, 1B, 1 in A or C, 4B, 1 in A or C, 1B, 6A. Let me say that again. 6A, 1B, 1 in A or C, 4B, 1 in A or C, 1B, and 6A. So this is the only time when we only have a single B before we make a switch, and then we make a switch again. So this is a quick sort of lightning switch through here. A, B, A. Here we go. We're closing in the top of our little leaf. So that chain 2 counts as a double crochet. And because we are crocheting over top of an existing color where that last color left off, we want to make sure that we grab that color. So when I slip my hook through there, I'm going to make sure that I grab the color just so I'm crocheting over top of it, just so I can carry that color. So you see that it's going to be right here where I need it to be and not over here, which would cross over top of my stitch. Finish that with the new color. 1 in B, but I don't even finish it. I switch back to my A or C color immediately. 1 in A, in this case, or C. I'm finishing it with B because I'm switching back to B immediately. We work 4 double crochet in that B color. Giving my A a tug, switch back to A or C. Back to B. 1 in B. Switch back to A. And then it's 6A to complete that graph's repeat. So what have we got? 6A, 1B, 1A or C, 4B, 1A or C, 1B, 6A, repeat. So we're closing in the top of our little leaf. I'm going to roll my little spool back up. Okay, off you go. I'll see you at the end of row 8. That's the end of row 8. We're done with the inside color changing now of our leaf. So if you were using a C color, you are completely finished with that. We are going to chain 2 and turn our work. And let's make sure that all of my little spools are hanging out on the correct side of the blanket. Let's take a look at the graph. We are into row 9, right-handed, you're here, left-handed, you're over here. Very simple row, 7A, 6B, 7A, repeat. 7A, 6B, 7A, repeat. Here we go. That first chain 2 counts as a double crochet. So we have 6 more to do with A. And that 7th stitch is right into what was a B color, so make sure you're grabbing your B and you're working over top of it to carry that color. And we're going to switch to B now, so that's 7A. Now we do 6 in B, we're carrying the A color. That's number 6. I'm just going to tug on my A to make sure that it hasn't bunched up. And then we finish the row or the graph repeat with 7 in A. And before I move on, I'm just going to roll up my spool. And there we go. So we're closing in the top of our leaf now. It's just solid B, 7A, 6B, 7A, repeat. I'll see you at the end of the row. That is the end of row 9. We have almost completely closed in the top of our leaf. So let's chain 2 and turn. We've got one more color change row left. Row 10, right-handed, you're over here. Lefties, you're over here. In row 10 is an exact repeat of row 2. So we are 9A, 2B, 9A, repeat. We are finishing with our spools this row. Remember, because we are going to start crocheting across what were B stitches, you want to make sure that you grab that B as you enter the B zone, so to speak, and crochet over top of it. So you're carrying the B color so that it's available for when you need it. So I'm just going to grab, I'm going to start my stitch there, make sure that I'm grabbing my B and I'm working over top of it so that I'm carrying that color to where I need it, which is right here in the very middle, stitches 10 and 11 of the graph. And let's just make sure that finishes over there. And now I am done. So I've got quite a lot of B left, which is actually nice. It's better to have too much than too little. But I'm going to snip that because I am done with the B. So I'll put that aside. And I'll just finish off row 9's first graph repeat with you. So 9A, 2B, 9A, repeat. And it looks like this. It's an exact repeat of row 2. So there's the top middle of our leaf now. 9A, 2B, 9A, repeat. I'll see you at the end. We're almost done. October is already zipping past. That is the end of row 9. All of our color changing is complete. We now are going to chain 2, turn. We're heading into row 11. You all know what that means. It is just a row of straight double crochet in color A. Row 11 is an exact repeat of row 1, so no matter what side you're starting on, right-handed or left-handed, it is a solid row of double crochet using color A. That is row 11. And we will be completely finished the October strip in about 115 stitches from now. That is row 11 complete. I'm all the way over here now. So I'm going to pull up on my loop, put my hook aside, grab my little safety pin, put it back in place so that my blanket won't unravel while it's sitting in its basket for the next few weeks waiting for the November edition. I'm going to go ahead and weave in all my little tails, and that is a leafy October all stitched up. This blanket is getting so big I have to fold it in 4 in order to hold it up and show you the latest edition. I really love how long this blanket is getting, and of course we still have 2 more months to go, November and December, and a border. And like we say every year, you can get the border on with us, or if you're kind of in a rush, you can get the border, you can add a border of your choosing. So this is all plain double crochet, so there's lots of options for borders if you didn't want to stick around and do the one that we're going to do. I know a lot of you like to make these blankets and give them away as gifts at Christmas or at the end of the year, so we do try to get the November, December, and blanket border videos out in a regularly decent time. But if you're sort of cutting it close for time, then you can come up with your own border if you want, and that'll be fine too. But yeah, there are 2 more editions coming. If you are in a super rush and you can't wait all the way through November to get your blanket finished, we do have a rather Christmassy themed Fair Isle Plus pattern available in the shop right now. It's an evergreen tree, and there's also a version in that same graph pattern to turn it into a bit of a Christmas tree. So if you wanted to add that and just sort of finish off your blanket a little sooner rather than waiting around for December, that is available too. And we'll put that pattern up top in the featured section this week in the Etsy shop next to our maple leaf pattern in case you want to check that out as well. We hope you enjoyed working on this October leaf pattern along with us. The fall is officially here. The leaves are changing. I'm even watching them fall down past the window as I speak. It's such a beautiful time of year. Definitely the creative juices are flowing. Anyway, we will see you soon here on the Jayda InStitches show. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have a great week. Bye, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Mr. InStitches here. Thank you for watching today. Here are some of our other videos you might be interested in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.